All right, so a lot of you probably know who dang old what's his name? Skibbs is. Yeah, that guy. And I think he did a tutorial on this some time ago, and probably will be more informative and better than this. But thought I'd give it a try and maybe kind of do my own thing with it. So first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna start off with just a Steve character, and we're gonna see if maybe we can use this technique to make some kind of walk or maybe run cycle or both or something. All right, let's see here. Kebster Giggles is here. How's it going? GSBA main channel. Will this help if I want to make my own animations? It could. I have a bunch of tutorials, and that those should get you started. But this thing we're gonna try here today, my first attempt at it, I haven't even really practiced it that much. I sort of use it a little bit in my own animations, but it's kind of like sporadic here and there. So yeah. Herbie Zoom, how's it going? Kazar Q, make a monster skull. Probably not today. Dead Ender's here. How's it going? Per person, I am Swedish. That's pretty cool. Bad time. Who want to have a bad time? That sounds like we already have one. Let's see. Monkey, what's the app called? Like this here? This is called Mine-imator. This is the community build of Mine-imator. So it's a little bit different than what you would download by default off of the main site, but you can go to the forum and find the thing and stuff. Brish is here. How's it going, homie box? Hi. All right, so let's go ahead and try to get started. So I'm going to go ahead and explain a few things. So pay attention, children. Of course, since I am trying to animate here, I may not be able to pay attention to chat the way I would like to. So just bear in mind if I don't read everything. Obviously, you have to kind of like see what I'm doing here. So the first thing we're going to talk about in terms of animation, kind of in general, but especially in terms of linear animation like this without using, like if you watch a lot of my tutorials, then you'll see, let's actually just select Steve's arm here. All right. So what we would normally do if I wanted Steve to raise his arm, just this is going to be a really basic movement, but let's say we're going to go to put a keyframe here. We're going to drag it to frame 0. Then we're going to go to frame 15, and then we're going to raise his arm up. All right, let's just say it'll go to 100, negative 100 degrees, and that's the next position. All right. So what we'll get is this. It's just a linear movement. And for basic animation, it really depends on what you're trying to go for. That can be fine, but typically people will say that is not very good and you need to use transitions. So in order to use transitions, we'll select this first keyframe here, and then we're going to go to the Properties tab or the Frames here. This is, I don't know what you would call this. Technically, the Properties tab is over here, left arm Properties, and this tab is what comes up when you select a keyframe. So I guess you could say this is the Keyframe Properties tab. And the transition under this keyframe thing here is set to linear. All right. So if you go to this, you'll see that there's a bunch of other transitions, and we can select this one. And you'll notice that the way he raises his arm is different. It kind of like starts out slow and then ends slow. There's a little bit more nuance to the movement. It's not just linear, like straight up and down. But some people like more control than that, and in order to get transitions to work, you can do like all kind of funky things, having to duplicate things and whatnot, and I've shown that in previous video tutorials that I've done. So yeah, we want to see if there's another way to animate that gives you a little bit more control over what happens and how it happens, right? Oh, it's going dry. Let's catch up with chat real quick. Let's see. Clockenyer, however you say your name. Are you going to start on animations in Blender? You already started some animations, but is Blender going to be the main animation program at some point in your life? I'm not sure. Right now, I'm just kind of doing what I feel like, and right now that happens to just be Mine-imator. So, yeah, I go with that for now. The sidebar called Frame Details. All right, maybe that's what it is. Frame Details. Are you sure? Who says this? Where you get this informations? In any case, it's definitely the keyframe properties because these are all the properties for this particular keyframe. So let's go ahead and get into like what the dang old point of this is. So Eden's World says, Linear is like a robotic keyframe, to be honest. Alright, so that is true, as we've shown here, now that his arm is just linear, it does that, and it's just pretty linear, as you might say. You could call that robotic. Robots would be a little bit different than that if you were really going to animate one. But basically what you would do is set up two positions, like key poses. So let's go ahead and get rid of this keyframe since we kind of illustrated the point there. And what I'm going to do is just select the whole thing, and then I'm going to hit this little trick that I learned. I think there's a user on the Mine-imator forums called Cat Optimist who did a little thing on this where you can select everything and then you come over here and toggle the visibility on and off, and then that'll set a keyframe for you. You can obviously do other things. You can just move something like this and have that happen, but the visibility is an easy way to do it so you don't mess up stuff, more or less. So we use that trick to get a keyframe for all of our spots there, and that can be helpful. We didn't really need to do it now, but that's just a little tip. Okay? Talking a lot, I know. So if we wanted to animate, say, a run cycle, what I would do is I want to create key poses. Now, I'm going to be using certain animation terms here, and I may be using them incorrectly, but just to try and explain the idea here, I'm going to do my best to use the terms that I feel like make sense. So, yeah, let's go with that. Thomas101 says, have you ever done something regretful in your life? Yeah, I woke up today. So what we want to do here is create a pose with the character, and we're going to do kind of like a mid-stride or something. This may not be 100% like the way you would want to go about making a run cycle, but this is what we're going to go with just for the sake of the tutorial-ness or whatever. So let's just say we're going to bend them like 85 degrees on the elbow there, and then come up like this. I'm not really sure exactly how far. Kind of depends on how much of a run you want to go with. But typically, I think when you're doing a run, the arms stay bent, more or less. I've always kind of struggled with that. I've never done a whole lot of run cycles, but typically they stay more or less bent. They may actually bend more when they're coming back. Don't quote me on that, but they might. Let's go to like 110 degrees on this bend. Makes the elbow look a little funky, but I think we're good. Let's make that like an even 70. And yeah, we'll do that. Then we're going to bend the body forward. Something like that. A lot of times people do this like really exaggerated body bent forward kind of thing. And then, you obviously would tilt the head back like this. I honestly don't know. I feel like if you watch people run in real life, they typically kind of just have a more almost like a straight posture. So I'm just going to go with that idea. We're just going to go like maybe about 10 degrees on that one. Let's go ahead and save. Gotta be OCD about your saving, man. All right, let's see. So obviously if you know anything about run cycles or walk cycles, what you want to do is have opposites. Since the left arm is back, that means the left leg is forward. Something like that. This looks like it's starting out to be a horrible pose here, but we'll try it. And something like that. Actually doesn't look too bad once you get the position there. We're going to make this bend. I feel like maybe, what should it be? 90? I feel like 87 looks okay. Something like that. And we may put a slight bend. Let's put that about like a 7-degree bend on the left leg there. And so you have that, and I actually bent the head back too far because of reasons. So we're going to go about negative 5.5 on the head. Okay. So that is our initial key pose. Like this is the pose that he's going to be in at this point in time. So let's say we're going to make the run cycle. Let's see. What would you want it to be? About how fast would you want to run? We'll see. We're at a, I don't know if you guys can see this right now, but we're on a 30 tempo. So that means, it should mean if I do 30 frames per second on my final render, then we have one keyframe for every frame of the animation. So what I'm going to do is assume that this 10 frames is going to be literally 10 frames in our final project. Not that that really matters right now, but just so you can kind of keep the math in your head or whatever. Let's just say we're going to do, let's go about 12 frames. I think oftentimes walk cycles are 12 frames, but that is also based on 24 frames per second. I'm talking a lot about things that don't matter, so bear with me. Anyway, what I'm going to do, I'm going to double click the left leg keyframe here, and I'm going to copy it. I'm going to hit Control C on my keyboard, because for some reason the button, which one is it? This button, you can actually click this button down here as well. Copy, and then I'm going to select the right leg timeline, and I'm going to hit Control V, or you can hit this button down here and paste. And I'm going to paste that on the 12th keyframe or frame position. Now I'm going to do the same. I'm going to double click and highlight the right leg's position. Control C, copy, Control V, paste on the left leg's timeline. Sometimes the thing doesn't go exactly where the cursor is. I don't know if it's because it depends on where the cursor is when you copy it or not. Any case, you just drag it back to where you need it. So we have this movement here. See that? Where they reverse position. We're going to do the same thing for the arms. Double click, select the right arm, paste it on the left arm, double click on the left arm, copy, and then paste it for the right arm. And then you get this movement. Whoop. Just like so. And these would technically be like your key poses. So you're going to start out with those. You're going to kind of block out the animation with your key poses. So let's see. Go ahead and check the chat real quick. See, people are talking a little bit. Smuggler Production says, AnxiousCynic, you're my dad, and Mine-imator, shout me out, please. That sounded creepy. Just going to leave it at that. How's it going, Nick EXE? Please make a tutorial on how to make a 360 animation, like the 360 camera. I've gotten that request a lot, but I've never really done it or paid much attention to that stuff. I think someone else has already made a tutorial on it, so it's not something I really feel I would have much to offer, since it's not something I really do. At this point in time, anyway. Thank you, Drew. In Mine-imator, is there a way to get a donut shape? There's spheres, cylinders, and cubes. You can get a donut shape by doing a custom item. You can just make your own thing and then bring it in. Let's see. So what you have here is 2 key poses, and now we need to set another one in the very middle. So we've got this thing, it's like 12, but actually I'm going to drag these out to 13 so that we can get a dead center keyframe position, which would be the 7th keyframe. And what we want to do here, let me actually delete that, is when they pass each other, the left leg needs to stay straight, more or less, and the right leg needs to bend either more or stay bent the same. So we're going to go to the 7th keyframe, and the leg that's coming forward, which is the right leg here, needs to remain bent, something like that. We're going to just say maybe 95. We'll see what that looks like. And on this one, we're going to have it come something like that. It really depends on how you're doing the run. You could try to straighten it out and just have it be straight. That's gonna, I guess that's not too bad. We'll just like force it to go straight at that point where it's like supporting his weight at that moment. Now that may not necessarily be what you would want to do for a run cycle, but we'll go with it for now just to see what we get. And then they're gonna come forward and his leg unbends and shoots out and ready for the next position. So now we have 2 key poses basically, and should be our 3 key poses, and that's basically our starting position, and then the transition from one side to the next and then into the other side. Those are really bad terms to use to explain that, but it is what it is. So there's your like 3 key poses, and then you would repeat this opposites. So every 7 frames, or basically on the 7th frame technically from the last one. So we're going to go ahead and copy the left leg and do the same thing we did earlier. Paste on the right leg. I'm not sure, I'm kind of eyeballing that for now, but it looks like it could be even. Copy and then paste on the left leg there. So you go like this and then like that, and that's pretty good. Looks like we're doing what we want to do there. And sometimes, you know, you would have the body twisting depending on where you are. So at this point in time, when he's at the like height of this movement, it looks like maybe his body would be turning one way or the other. I kind of feel like when you're running, your body kind of turns towards the leg that's going out straight. So let's just kind of give it, want to be relatively subtle. We'll try about 8 degrees there. And then we'll go -8 on this one. So that way when he runs, it does that, you know, kind of rocking motion facing where he's going. And then this one should be kind of doing it on its own, but right here we're going to zero it out in the middle. Same here, 0. Something like that. So there's your key poses, more or less, and it doesn't look exactly right now because it's not, you know, doing what it's supposed to do, but we can try it. So let me see. We're going to go ahead and make sure that everything is close to how we want it. It may not be a perfect run cycle here. You can watch like a better run cycle or watch someone run in real life if you want to make it super realistic and stuff. But yeah. It almost seems like 8 degrees would be too far. Let me try something a little bit more subtle here. Let's go about 4. -4. All right. All right, as you can see, everything is happening very linearly here. Obviously, linear keyframe transitions, and it's just going. And what we would do here is, let's go ahead and copy this, paste these, and that would be, if we're going every 13 frames, that would mean we go to frame 26. And that way the arms will continue to do what we're trying to get them to do. And I guess for now, I may end up replacing these, but just so we can get this loop going. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on the timeline and drag this out to frame 25. Hopefully that'll work out for us. We're going to go ahead and turn on looping and just watch what this looks like. So it looks pretty terrible. Not very good. Let's drag it on out to the whole thing. I don't know if this works the way Blender does. Looks a little better that way. So there's like a really terrible run. Now I feel like the body movement's not as exaggerated as it should be. Oh well. Close enough. AnxiousCynic, I hope I can make you a video / animation for your intro. I don't really use intros that much. I mean, feel free to do so for practice or to have fun and let me know. But I don't really use them that much. I kind of feel like intros are, unless properly done and properly used, they're kind of not very good to do. Alright, so basically what you have there is a very basic animation with your key poses and whatnot. Another thing you would do as well, it is Minecraft, so I wouldn't recommend like getting too crazy about making sure it's super realistic. But we, you know, our rotation axes are kind of messed up now, but you could animate this. I'm not going to worry about it, but you could churn the leg and have it kind of tilt inward. Since our axes are messed up, we can't really do that very easily right now, but that would be one thing you could do, because usually like when people run, you know, you're kind of putting your leg over towards where you're going. Like you could just do like this, where his leg kind of comes in a bit. -3 on that one, and it's like the other leg. This one would probably be what, +3, kind of comes in a bit, and then drag this back. Let's get rid of that loop. And this one, -3. Hey, put it there. Hang on. Okay. Here we go. -3. And then that way gives you a little bit more sort of realism. Again, it's Minecraft. Sometimes I would recommend not worrying about being realistic too much, especially with Mine-imator. You can't do as much with Mine-imator as you could with Blender to really make realistic animation work for you. But they kind of go in a little bit. It's kind of a subtle detail, but a lot of times people kind of run with their feet sort of overlapping when they're running. Not 100%. So, yeah, we'll just go with that for now. How's it going, Dominique Blanks? All right. Did I say it right this time? Yes, I did. I got my ice water here in case you couldn't tell. There's a big block of ice in it because I froze it. Because it's summertime, man. Alright, so basically we're just going to go with that for now. I'm not going to edit the body too much. A lot of times I feel like people over-edit the body and the head. You can add some bob to it, but I would suggest kind of doing that based on the need and try not to go too exaggerated with it. It really depends on the style of animation, though. Anyway, the point is, what we have here are key poses. Now, there's two things to worry about here. One thing is something they call twinning, if I'm not mistaken. And twinning is basically exactly what I did here, where I use whole numbers, like solid numbers. Like right here, the body is at 10 degrees and 4 degrees on the churn. And then this one is 10 degrees, -4. Like the numbers stay the same. So what happens is like when he runs, this movement is very twinned. Like the movements are the exact same every single time. And that's, for realistic animation, you don't want to do that. With Mine-imator, with Minecraft stuff, I think you can get away with it more because it's a blocky world. But as far as like learning good animation habits, you want to not do that, you know? You want to do dang old like stuff, you know? you want it to be more realistic. If you imagine a person running, their arm's not going to go back or be bent in the same exact position every time. Like there's subtle variation. So that's a good habit to try not to twin too much if you care about the actual final quality of the animation. Another thing we could do here as well, just like we did with the legs down there, is you can bend the arms in. I can actually do like this. Kind of have the arms come in like that. That one would come in like that. This one would twist kind of backwards a bit. Probably not too much. And that kind of goes with, I burped. That kind of goes with the motion of the body as well. So we're going to do the similar thing here. Just kind of bring that out and then use this one to bring it in. Just like so. Doesn't that look like a much more realistic run pose already just by doing that little subtle thing there? Look at that. Steve looks like he's in an all-out sprint, man. Looks pretty good. So yeah. Let's see, can you do a water physics rig or is that not possible in Mine-imator? What do you mean by water physics exactly? Please do a survival games animation. Oh, geez. Maybe someday. Yeah, the arms look way better that way. Thank you. That's what I was looking for, man. It adds a lot. Like, those little details are so easy to overlook if you're not, like, used to it. I don't animate enough, honestly, to remember to do that all the time. But it's so easy to forget about those little things, and they can really make all the difference when you're animating. It's just little subtle details like that. So, anyway, I think we got that set up. Is this not done that way? Well, we can easily fix that by just copying it over if we wanted to. Just go ahead and delete those, copy and paste, and drag those over. And that way, again, we're twinning it, but those are the basics that you would do there. Looks a lot better. And of course, I didn't animate any bend in the body or anything like that. Again, doesn't really matter in my opinion. Depends on how you want them to run. You can kind of bend it back like that. A slight bend backwards would probably help. I can actually just go ahead and select the entire body and then do that -3 bend and that will stay in it. What you could do though on certain ones, like maybe these here, is bring it forward to 0 again. And then let's see what that looks like. See there? Not too terrible. And I would say, like, again, for a Minecraft animation, this would probably be fine. Like, you don't really need to do a whole lot of special stuff. It looks kind of like a blocky movement because Steve's a blocky guy. What are you going to do, you know? So it looks like it works out pretty well. 1 second. All right. So to me, I think that would work out pretty well as long as you get the timing done. He's running kind of slow. You know, we want to speed this up. So maybe instead of 10 keyframes, we're going to go with, or instead of 13, we'll go with 10. Let's drag those in like so. This probably won't even be fast enough either, but we'll try it. Go ahead and make that loop. That's a little bit faster run. maybe looks a little better. As you can see, the head's not really animating much. I didn't do much with the head. What we could do is, let's see. You want the head to kind of, like, your head's typically trying to look straight. So when the body's bending one way or the other, or twisting, this is at 4 degrees. So we can kind of have the head go, let's just say -3. And then +3. That's reasonable. And then -3 again. And then in the middle, it automatically goes to 0, but we'll just go ahead and set keyframes there because this is about linear keyframe animation. So you see there, the head kind of doesn't tilt as much. I didn't want to get rid of all the tilt 100% because it can look a little bit too blocky and like bad. But it is what it is, and it keeps his head kind of more straight. You can obviously do some animation to make the head kind of bounce up and down a bit more and stuff like that. But I feel like for the purposes of this example, that's good enough. So now the point of linear keyframe animation, like what you can see here is we have these empty spaces in between the keyframes that we have set. And typically, I think that in a lot of cases that may be bad form, particularly in Mine-imator because you don't have F-curves, like a graph, in order to dictate how those things will move in between the keyframes. So what you would do here is, like I was saying, with linear keyframe animation. Now, we've kind of done a decent amount here to have to go in and do all this, so you would need to be somewhat strategic as to when you begin to do these things so that you can kind of remember where you can begin to loop it, basically, if that makes sense. It's probably not the best explanation, but you know, as you can see, when I change something, I have to go back and change other things. So it depends on how far you've gone along as to how much you will have to do in this phase before you can just take all the keyframes and loop them later. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. Anxious do an instant keyframe animation. Yeah, that could be pretty fun. I've thought about doing it, but I've never done it. Smuggler says, I love your videos and wish to do the type of your videos, but I know I won't be as good as you. AnxiousCynic, you're the best, and I love all your videos, my friend, when animating my videos. Well, that's cool, man, and you could definitely get as good, if not better than me, because I don't really dedicate myself to getting super good. I just do what I like and leave it at that. So, we'll go from there. The animation beast, use ease in and ease out sign with the body, arms, and head. We could do that. That's what you would typically do, but that's not linear keyframe animation. I'm about to get into that, actually. AF says, I have an idea. Please make a swimming animation cycle. It would be really useful for my current project. I've gotten asked to do that, but I haven't gotten around to it, so I need to try it. Let's see. OMG, Anxious noticed me. Hey, can you make rigs for people? I'm not really the best rigger. I've done some tutorials on how to do it yourself, like basics of how to do it, but I don't really do it that often to get very good at it. All right, so back into this. We're not using the keyframe transitions like, what's your name? Animation Beast suggested, and the reason we're not is because this is how to have more manual control over it, and this kind of will set a precedent where you can actually animate an entire animation this way, and it gives you a lot more control over how it would go, how you would move it. And so what we would do here is we're all linear, okay? So what we're going to do is go to the individual points in between these keyframes and animate this manually. So it sounds a little more time consuming, but you can of course make like a run cycle and save it and import it later and stuff like that. So once you build up an animation library, you can animate faster using these. But anyway, so just to start off here, we're going to go with this leg right here, this right leg. And as you can see, it just moves linearly, and that's okay. But what we want is it to actually kind of slowly begin to move forward. So what we can do is kind of notice where the position is. This is 29.11 on the X rotation, and we can go to the next keyframe, 19.12. So I can go here, and it was 29.11, right? Basically 29. So we can go to this one and we'll say, let's make it be 25. And then this one, it jumps down to 13. Let's just say we'll make that one 16. And so on and so forth. Let's make this one say 5. And then the movement you get with that, it might be kind of like subtle, but you get a little bit of like a kind of like a hesitation there, and it gives it a little bit more weight. So you'll go with that, and then we'll continue with this leg. I'm just going to leave these blank for now. You can always go back and do it like that. So for here, I don't really see it that much of a problem with it flinging forward. But let's just say here we want it to kind of float a bit more forward. So what we would do is kind of get it more or less like we'll start at this point, I guess. So this is at 7 on the bend and 63. Let's just say 63 on the X there. So we would go, let's just say negative 59, something like that. And here we're at 49, so let's just go negative 55. And let's see, would want this to come up to, say, 15. Now, again, this is all like trial and error, so don't take my numbers here as in they're going to be exactly what works out for us. So we do that, and then we would also want there to be some hesitation here as well. So we're going to go from negative 63 and 7. We want to go to, that brings it down to 50, so we're going to go to negative 58, maybe. Maybe not quite enough there, but we'll try it. Negative 50 and negative 40, something like that, and see what that looks like. All right, that looks like it's not quite enough. So let's go ahead and bring this negative 50, negative 45, negative 35. All right, still not perfect, but you kind of get the idea there. You can kind of, more or less, you're stretching and shrinking those areas like where that distance is getting covered quicker than you would like it to, and you just manually set those keyframes to give you that type of more fluid movement that you want. You can kind of see there with that leg, it looks a little bit more like realistic with the way he's running and the way that the weight is being portrayed and inertia and things like that. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say this is the best settings that I've done here, but that's basically the, example of how you would do it and what you can make it look like. So obviously, that's kind of a lot of work to do, and you would have to duplicate that amount of work on both things, So for instance, let's see here. This here is when this leg comes forward. So I'm just going to copy these. Again, we're doing the whole twinning thing that you're not supposed to do, but, we'll just that'll be our little secret. So we're going to go ahead and copy those from that one and paste and drag these over. And that got kind of messed up because of the other keyframe. And then these here would be before that. So we would want to go to this one and paste those right there, I think. Hopefully I'm not getting confused, because that does happen, man. And then you have... Alright, yeah. We did not get those where we want them to be. Alright. So that's one is coming up. Okay, it will be this one over here. Alright, we got it. What I could actually do, like one thing I would recommend probably, if you're good enough at kind of guessing what you're trying to do here, you could animate one leg entirely this way and then copy all those keyframes to the other one and just make sure that the positions, like the key positions, are reversed. Something like that. So anyway, we put that one over here, then like that. And then this one here, copy paste them up there. And what do we got here? This one, copy, and this is when the bent leg is coming forward. right? So I think that one would go here. Whoops. There we go. Like that. All right, so that little hitch there is happening because the animation ends, so you don't have to worry about that. That wouldn't happen in the finished thing there, but we do have this screwing up a bit. Oh yeah, that's just because of that as well, I think. Yeah, all right. Anyway, it's kind of difficult to tell right there with that, but you can see how it gives the movement a little bit more weight and it makes it look a little better, just so we can kind of get a better view of this, hopefully. Let's do that. So you can see how the legs kind of, they just have more inertia and like more like a realistic momentum about them. Something, it's not just this complete blocky thing. And again, you would do the same thing for the arms and the legs and whatnot. And that's how you would do linear keyframe animation. So instead of using these transitions that kind of give you a limited range of like what you're looking for, what you're trying to do, you can use this method. And like this goes for like moving the body around, like moving objects around, anything like that. When you animate every keyframe and leave the transition to linear, it gives you a lot more control because it's literally you telling it where to be at every single point in time instead of letting the program figure it out and then getting like, having to finagle with the program to get the results you want. You can actually just tell it to do this, be here at this time, and move this fast and things like that. So it gives you a lot more control overall over the animation and you get some pretty good results. This is just like, a basic run cycle. You can do a lot more with this. Obviously, this is just an example of how you would use that. But yeah. So obviously, one of the issues you would run into here is you have a lot of keyframes. So when it comes to copy pasting and like keeping the run cycle going, that's gonna be kind of a challenge, keeping up with what your keyframes are doing and what's supposed to be where. But I think you could do it. Like for instance, let's say with this one we would grab these. Let's just see what this looks like. We grab those. So this position here is the same as this position here. So if we grab those, and then we want to go every 5 frames, so I'm going to copy and paste. That should put us there where we want to be. And we're going to do the same thing again, paste and paste. So you would just do like this, more or less, and you should get a fairly decent run cycle. Another thing you would do here, of course, for a run cycle specifically, is you would want the body to bob up and down. So for instance, that looked funny. Obviously the arms look derpy because I didn't do the process there, but you get the idea. All right, so probably right around here is where you would want the body to obviously be on ground level. Like his foot has to be making contact there. But when he's up in this full stride, then you might raise him up just a tad. Let's just say, whoops. I don't know if 1 would be enough. Try that and see. 1, just to see what this is doing. All right, so as you can see there, he's kind of like going up and down. And of course, this would require the whole linear keyframe process as well, as he's kind of coming up more slowly and going back down slowly, kind of like if you were animating a ball bouncing or something, you would want the inertia and whatnot to play out just like you did with the legs there. But anyway, let's just take this. Hang on, where are we at here? One's up, down, up. So then we would just copy these 2. Do like that. We can speed the process up there. So, let's see what that looks like. You got a bounce there. See that? Run cycle, man. Like the bounce isn't, I mean, like you could definitely make that look better, but wouldn't think that's necessarily that much of a priority in terms of making it look good. Again, if you're going for a Minecrafty look, I think that would look fine, but you may want to add like transitions or something. Let's just see what that looks like real quick. If we gave it an ease in, ease out sign. See there? You can use a transition there and it gives it a little bit more of a kind of a natural movement. The leg is messed up because of the looping. Unless you're talking about during the run cycle. The end here is messed up because it's looping and obviously you would have it kind of come to a stop. So like, for instance, let's just get rid of these keyframes here. Also, this is a little thing. If you click in on your mouse wheel, you can drag the timeline like this instead of using the scroll bar down here and, you know, screwing up and grabbing the edge of your window or whatever. You can just do this number here and it's good. All right, so we're going to delete that and then we're going to say this and I want to grab all of his parts and I'm just going to have him stop. Right? All right. So he stops. Let's go ahead and turn loop off real quick. Save. And then he's going to come down like so. Maybe move that in a bit. There. So then now we won't get that glitch and he will just stay put, man. There we go. See there? It's doing stuff, man. Comes to it, like I would definitely animate the stop better if I was doing an actual animation, but we don't even have it moving right now. So again, if this is like something you're trying to do, then another thing I would typically do is parent them to a folder. So if I did that, I had them selected and I hit the folder icon, that puts Steve in a folder, and then I would name it character controller, like that. All right, and then what I would do, typically, now of course, if you're doing the linear keyframe animation thing and you're animating the body, then you could totally do this with just the body. But to make it easier, you can have the character controller there and have it move independently. So for instance, let's just say that's there. And then we'll take this and just move it like that. And then we can move him independently of, that's not really timed up well. But do like that, moving further. Then we can have that animation playing and then move Steve independently of that. And then what I would do typically when I animate things like this is I go through and I scroll. And you see there, look at this right here, man. Zoom in on our timeline here. When his foot comes down, it kind of slides a bit. So in a way, his foot is moving. And now again, we could also animate this with the keyframes to make it slow down here a little bit more and whatnot. But just say, for instance, you're done and you're just moving him in this way that I'm doing it. It's not that bad, but he kind of slides a bit. And in order to eliminate that, that obviously kind of means that his foot is moving faster than he is. So you can move him a little bit further, depending on your scene, however fast he's supposed to be going. And let's get a look at it again. Let's get back over here. So his foot comes down. Still got a little bit of a slide there, but you can see it's slightly improved. So I can move him even more if I wanted to. Then come back to this and see See, we get a lot less slide there. You can basically use the pixels in Minecraft to your advantage. And you'll notice his foot comes down and kind of stays on the same line, as though there's weight there. And so hopefully, when we zoom out and watch it from a distance, he's running realistically across the lands. And there you go, man. That's a really rough example of linear keyframe animation to make a run cycle. But I'm sure you can see just dang old like how useful that could be in an actual animation setting, like making something for reels and whatnot. So yeah. Alright, I've been ignoring chat for a while. Let's see what everybody's been up to. I'm sure I missed something. Smuggler says, should I send you $500? Absolutely. And make it 500,000.